Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the MeanGene Show on iHeartRadio, powered by Podbean. I am in El Paso, Texas, celebrating my grandson's birthday. Yesterday, he turned 6. While I have some downtime, I wanted to weigh in on the Brittney Griner situation, which is growing by the day. I haven't really I've been following the story, but I just haven't had a chance to get on and talk about it because I really wanted to. And I know a lot of you don't know or didn't know anything about her prior to this incident, meaning Brittney Griner. You didn't know, who is she? What is she? What's she doing over there? And all that stuff. Now, last night I read a ton of post-article comments that pretty much confirmed that people didn't know who the hell she was, right? And it's amazing how quickly some people are to condemn a person when they really don't know the full story or have the fact. Now, that even goes for some journalists out there who are quick to pull the trigger on the story just to be the first one to break it. And then when you have the end user, people like me and you, who you would hope that we can read and comprehend, but sometimes we will scamper through a story missing some of the most important details. This is why I'm going to do my best to cover, before the end of this podcast, be able to cover this so you will be a little bit more informed on what's going on. Let's start with Brittney Griner. Who is she? All right, she's a 7-time WNBA All-Star. She currently plays with the WNBA Phoenix Mercury. If you follow the WNBA, you are well aware of who she is and the team that she plays for. They made the WNBA Finals last year before losing to the Chicago Sky in the WNBA championship. So Brittney Griner has been arrested and detained in Russia and has not been allowed to leave the country after Russian Federal Customs agents said it discovered cartridges containing hashish oil in her luggage at the Sheremetyevo airport near Moscow. Now, this offense, according to Russian authorities, could carry a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison, which is pretty serious. Okay, so now in doing my research on Brittney Griner, I couldn't find any evidence of drug usage in her past. So these charges caught many people off guard, including me. But then again, we're talking about a popular individual who the Russians may be using to their advantage or propaganda because of this war. So many sanctions have been placed on Russia for what they're doing in Ukraine. And I'm not going to get deep into this war and political stuff, but we all know what's going on. But I will say, do your best to be informed. You know, when you're out there talking to someone, just don't be running your mouth and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Try your best to know what's going on. You'd be amazed how smart you will sound. Even if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you could still do your homework, you know, and I mean, everyone has an opinion, and that's fine. Some folks don't really care. They just gonna blurt out and say things just to say things. But for the most part, if you want to know something and you're not certain that the person who you're talking to is telling you the right thing, or if you're reading something you're not certain about that, then just do your research. Just follow up and do your research. Now, I'm going to say that when any American is overseas, there's a certain way you have to conduct yourselves. And I'm sure people should know that. Military people definitely know that. Now, I remember my days in the United States Navy. Everywhere we went overseas, they reminded us that we were ambassadors to the United States and we needed to act accordingly, which was them telling us don't go out there and get in trouble, right? And this is one of the main reasons why military police are on every base, military installation, so that they can keep American servicemen and women out of trouble in these foreign countries. Now, without them, oh my goodness, you would have a ton of overseas or international incidents. And to be honest, there are just many countries out there that simply don't like Americans, military or civilians. So I've seen it, felt it, all of that stuff, been there, done that. And I can just only imagine the situation that Brittney Griner finds herself in. And I will say that when the story broke, many people wondered, well, what was she doing in Russia in the first place? And this is a normal reaction, especially if you don't follow basketball or the WNBA. Brittney Griner has played the last couple of seasons, WNBA off seasons, with a team. It's UMMC Ekaterinburg. It's a Russia's women's basketball team over there. They compete in the Russia's Premier League for women and the FIBA Europe League for women. I'm sure you've heard of FIBA. And this is normal for WNBA players to do this, to go overseas to try to make more money. And we're talking about up to $1 million in some cases, which is 4 times as much as they would be making in the WNBA. As a matter of fact, the maximum base salary in the WNBA is only $228,000 a year. Now, they can make more with endorsements and all of that stuff. And I think with bonuses, you're looking at maybe $500,000 or a little bit more. But when you have a player, Brittney Griner is six? I think she's 6'9", but I know she's tall. She's 6'9", so she's a polarizing figure on the basketball court if you ever see her play. So I could totally understand the Russians Premier League for wanting her to come over there and play, and vice versa. With the money that they're throwing out there, I can understand why she wanted to go and play. So now, according to the WNBA, about 70 of their players went to compete overseas in this offseason. And now the league did confirm that all of the players are out of the country, Russia, Ukraine, of course, with the exception of Brittney Griner. And then the U.S. State Department has issued a do not travel advisory for all U.S. citizens thinking of heading to Russia, which nobody should be at this point in time now, unless you want to go over into Ukraine and help fight the war. But they have urged all Americans to stay out of Russia, the ones that are in Russia, to leave Russia immediately as this conflict between Russia and the Ukraine escalates. So that's serious stuff right there. Now that we know a little bit more about what's going on, questions still remain on the charges that she's facing. So I just briefly told you that she's looking at an offense that could carry a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. That's pretty serious. Now, according to an unreliable source, Russian prosecutors have a 99% conviction rate, and that's just something that we can't confirm, okay? But I can tell you that there are 2 other Americans that have been convicted. There's a Paul Whelan and Trevor Reed. If you watch CNN, Fox, MSNBC, whatever news agency you watch, you probably have heard about the 2 gentlemen that was convicted in Russia. Trevor Reed, he's a 29-year-old ex-Marine. He's in a Russian jail. He's been there since last year for allegedly attacking a police officer. He was sentenced for 9 years. The other guy, Paul Whelan, he's being detained for allegedly spying. He has been sentenced to 16 years. This is something way before the Brittney Griner incident, and it's something that the U.S. government knew about and they are currently working on to try to resolve. It's scary, when you see these 2 guys were arrested and sentenced, convicted. That's why I gave you that unconfirmed report of Russian prosecutors. Come Americans at Russian court, chances are, you probably will get a conviction. So this is interesting stuff. So this is why this story is so serious. Now, as far as support and resources for Brittney Griner, I would say that she certainly has the support of the United States government, including, of course, the State Department, the NBA, and the WNBA. And as long as they continue to support her and her family here in the United States, that should provide some sort of relief for Brittney Griner. And no one knows how long this war is going to go on between Russia and the Ukraine. But the sanctions that the world has placed on Russia for aggressively invading and attacking a country, an innocent country, those sanctions are hitting Russia hard. So Russia has an individual that they are going to use as leverage. And it's unfortunate, but that apparently seems to be the case. Many of us want to know exactly how this drug charge is going to stick with Brittney Griner. Now, they did show, many of you probably seen the video of her going through customs, and I guess the drug sniffing dogs found what they found. We don't know if it was planted there. We don't know you just don't know. And we certainly are hoping that Brittney Griner didn't knowingly put this substance in her baggage, and so that would just be a horrible outcome. That's what we got here. So now we have a clear picture of what's going on with Brittney Griner, and the next big question is, what is the likely outcome here? What's going to happen now? This is where I sort of give my opinion, because this is definitely not facts. I can say this. Before I learned about the other 2 Americans detained in Russia, I said that Brittney Griner would probably be released, as this was some sort of propaganda by the Russians, especially in light of the war with Ukraine, and that they would just magically release her and let it go, depending on how the world continues to treat Russia, whether we lift sanctions, whether we stop freezing assets from the Putin government. Political hardball is what they call it, I guess. But I don't know, with these other 2 individuals that I was able to research on. And all three charges are serious. These two guys have been convicted. No one wants to spend 9 years, 16 years, or in Brittney Griner's case, 10 years. This is serious stuff. So negotiations are going to be happening. I'm still shocked that the other two are over there and have not been released. That doesn't give me a good feeling about Brittney Griner getting released anytime soon when these other two Americans have been over there for a while. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on this. As far as, and now that you know a little bit more about what's going on here, I would just say stay tuned, because there's certainly going to be more on this. And as this war continues to escalate in Ukraine, and there's more as they tighten up the grips on Russia, it could get worse before it get better. Hopefully that's not the case. But anyway, I do have another podcast coming up here. As you know, NC2A men's basketball, women's basketball conference tournaments are happening this week. So I can honestly say that I'm probably going to do at least 2 or 3 more podcasts for NC2A basketball, because we have the selection show, or the bracket show is what I call it. We got to do that one, and then we more than likely, we always do a Sweet 16, and we're definitely going to do a Final Four. So I know we got a couple of more NC2A basketball shows coming up. So I hope you enjoyed this brief, informative podcast here, and we'll come back with another one here on the MeanGene Show, iHeartRadio, powered by Podbean.